Good day, everyone. In the past State of the Freeport address, I ended my message with a quote from the U.S. Senator Margaret Chase Smith on public service. Today, with the help of the children of the Subic Bay Freeport, to whom we shall entrust our future, I want to start my message with this reminder for all of us.
My creed is that public service must be more than doing a job efficiently and honestly.
It must be a complete dedication to the people and to the nation.
With full recognition that every human being
is entitled to courtesy and consideration.
That constructive criticism is not only to be expected, but sought.
That smears are not only to be expected, but fought.
That honor is to be learned and not bought.
5 years ago, we embarked on a journey to seek a better future for the Subic Bay Freeport. We are on this ship pointed towards the horizon, to the limitless promise of the open sea, to the opportunities that lay beyond our present location, to the hopes and dreams that we have nurtured in our hearts, and our voyage continues today. Despite the challenges that we encounter, despite the storms that beat upon our ship and test our spirit to endure, the year past put us under such a test when the COVID-19 pandemic came out of nowhere and sent the global economy into a tailspin. The Subic Bay Freeport was not spared. Lockdowns were instituted everywhere to minimize health risks and save lives. But the economy suffered as a consequence. Companies reacted with cost-saving measures. Workers lost their jobs, and this further brought about the strong ripple effect that reverberated everywhere. But for the most part, Subic survived. For we have prepared ourselves to weather any tempest, hand in hand with the health and safety protocols that kept most Subic industries silently and safely humming in 2020. There was confidence on our ship that was born out of the solid fiscal foundations we have carved in 2019 and the years before that. It wasn't yet raining when Noah built his ark, and there wasn't any storm yet 5 years ago when we began buttressing the SBMA for this voyage that we have. 2019, Solid Foundation, a banner year for SBMA. The Subic Bay Freeport wasn't built in a day. What it is now is the result of years and years of hard work by stakeholders, the investor companies, workers, residents, the Subic Bay Metropolitan Authority, and our surrounding communities that supported our development and contributed their manpower and resources, as well as prayers and well wishes for its success. Similarly, 2019 was the result of painstaking toil to establish a bedrock of progress upon which more achievements could be built. When I arrived in January 2017, I stressed the core values that would henceforth guide the SBMA: strong work ethic, reasonable use of resources, honesty, transparency. And the sound policies that we instituted from these core beliefs became the foundation that yielded outstanding results for Subic.
We stand today opponents. We strive to bring home pride, and yet our power when combined is a force to change the world. Our nations share a common dream. Our roots are old and new. Our stories, joyful echoings of bonds, forged strong and true. Together we're a universe. We are a future. Yes, we compete, but the greatest feat is when we win as one. We win as one, unconquered. we compete, but the greatest feat is when we win. We win, we win as one. Together we're a universe. We are a future world. Yes, we compete, but the greatest feat is when we win as one. We win as one, unconquered. We win as one, unbound. We share a single promise. We win as one. Yes, we compete, but the greatest feat is when we win. That's when we win. Yes, when we win, we win as one.
2020 Disruptions. At this time, our ship was sailing majestically at sea. Fair winds blew her full sails. Her bow pointed to the dreams and opportunities yonder. Our announcement of brighter prospects for Subic's cruise ship tourism greeted the year 2020 with the arrival here of the colossal MV Spectrum of the Seas. Our optimism was high, and rightly so. 38 cruise ships arrivals for 2020 had been confirmed at that time. 4 more had been booked for 2021. We expected more business, more revenue, more employment, not just in Subic but also our nearby communities. Then suddenly, a storm brewed from afar and soon engulfed us, along with the rest of the world, and everything was not the same. The COVID-19 pandemic practically crippled Subic's emerging cruise tourism business. Then, it began to impact the local economy more when the national government had to impose a national lockdown on March 17, 2020, in order to avert further infections. But even before this, the Subic Bay Freeport was already taking proactive measures to combat the spread of the virus. As early as January 7, 2020, the SBMA issued a public health and safety bulletin to stakeholders, warning them of a viral pneumonia and encouraging them to practice proper hygiene and other safety protocols. On January 2020, the SBMA Task Force Against COVID-19 was created to help protect the community from the virus, and plans were cascaded down to various stakeholders. SBMA was one of the first government agencies to implement key health protocols to combat COVID-19. We were ahead of everyone. On February 1, 2020, we started with body temperature scans in all our gates. There were complaints at first about traffic and all the inconveniences, but we were soon proven right as Manila ordered similar temperature scans as well as masking protocols. On Valentine's Day 2020, the first business video conferencing was held between the Business and Investment Group of SBMA and prospective investors of Taiwan. This was one of the first business adaptations by the agency as it enters the new normal. Soon after, on March 8, we began disinfecting our facilities using agents prescribed by the Department of Health. We also approved on March 9 an initial 5 million peso fund for COVID-19 emergencies and ordered entry restrictions of the Freeport gates on March 14. On March 23, as the national government stepped up its COVID response, the SBMA participated in the DOH training on COVID-19 testing protocols that was held at the Subic Gym. By the end of March 2020, SBMA finalized the setup of the Subic Gym and Lechelle Hotel as temporary community isolation units for persons under investigation, or what we call PUI. Again, we are one step ahead. We need to be ready in case there's a surge of local infection. When the enhanced community quarantine was imposed, the SBMA required the use of quarantine pass to limit the number of people outside their residence. SBMA employees, except for essential personnel, were put under a work-from-home setup and a curfew was imposed Freeport-wide. Only essential workers from the Public Health and Safety Department, our Fire and Law Enforcement Departments physically reported for work every day to guarantee continued service and safety in the Subic Bay Freeport. The SBMA also ordered preventive measures for public transportation and issued guidelines on border control to further strengthen the fight against the spread of COVID-19. It also facilitated the rapid testing of SBMA employees and some companies. Meanwhile, SBF locators and residents were provided with guidance and protocols as the country transitioned from one quarantine period to another. All forms of communications were open 24/7, ensuring business as usual while abiding by the guidelines and protocols of the government and the IATF. By April 2020, the agency, in partnership with the Philippine Red Cross, began setting up its swabbing facility in 2 buildings near the Freeport main gate. Swab samples collected by trained health workers were validated and taken to the PRC Molecular Laboratory at Subic's Naval Magazine area for testing. The SBMA PRC swabbing facility began operations on June 23, 2020 to accommodate residents of the Freeport and those from our neighboring communities. And even as Subic shifted to modified ECQ on May 16, 2020, thus allowing more business operations, the SBMA retained border controls and restrictions on non-essential travel. This was what apparently got the goat of Bulacan Governor Daniel Fernando when on May 8, even before the modified ECQ, tried to pass through Subic on his way to his beach resort in Bataan, and I had to deny him entry, as mandated by IATF protocols at that time. Meanwhile, the SBMA saw to it that social distancing and other health protocols were observed in public areas, as some businesses were allowed to open under modified enhanced community quarantine. Locators allowed to operate under MECQ were jointly inspected by the PHSD, Fire Department, and Law Enforcement to ensure compliance with health and safety protocols and to confirm if they were abiding by the on-site manpower deployment prescribed by the government. Also in May, we began mass testing of SBMA workers, and all close to 1,000 frontline workers of the agency tested negative in a rapid antibody test. This gave a huge relief not only to the agency but also the Freeport community that these workers served. By June 1st, as Subic eased down to general community quarantine and around 50% of Subic firms were already operating, the SBMA suspended the collection of penalties and other fees from business locators to help ease their difficulties under the pandemic. We would also grant extensions for permits and other requirements and initiate other relief measures for businesses in the course of the quarantine period. While the SBMA was strict about health and safety protocols in the Freeport, it sought and tried all means possible to take business back to the usual. And when we did on several occasions, we were vilified in social media and attacked personally for what we were doing. In July 2020, as the Department of Transportation and other government agencies eyed Subic as a gateway for returning overseas Filipino workers, as well as center for international crew change, we were accused of not consulting with certain local government units about the plan, which, by the way, was being hatched not in Subic but in Manila. The bashers said that we were endangering Subic and our workers for the business these projects would bring. But again, We proved them wrong. In the end, SBMA got all the support of neighboring LGUs, and on September 10, the first crew change operation was successfully held right here in Subic, following lengthy and arduous preparations of the Green Lane at the Subic Bay International Airport to ensure that all health safety measures are in place. In September, the SBMA also staged the first virtual job fair, a 3-day event that saw 16 Subic locators as well as 18 other companies and 2 government agencies rolling out a total of 695 jobs. This was another adaptation not only to help minimize health risks to job seekers and the general public, but also to keep business and industry moving in the Freeport. In the next few months, the SBMA covered virtually all fronts in the fight against COVID-19. In the first week of October, we released 22.73 million pesos in hazard pay for workers in the front line and essential services of the SBMA to keep services rolling. Binigay po natin ang tama, binigay po namin ang dapat. Then, we approved a cashless public transportation system to help minimize the dangers of virus transmission and create a better environment for workers, residents, and visitors. Also, in support of the Department of Health's call to provide teleconsultation during the pandemic, our Public Health and Safety Group developed the SBMA Clinica, an online medical and dental consultation that was formally launched on October 21. At the end of October, we also announced that SBMA will henceforth conduct public bidding online to ensure transparency, efficiency, and safety. Thus, the bidding process becomes faster, more transparent, and credible, and at the same time, it keeps participants secure from the COVID-19 virus. The agency has also adopted the new normal by conducting webinars for its stakeholders and attending virtual meetings with prospective investors and other government agencies. The quarantine did not become a hindrance for SBMA to promote the Freeport, as the agency utilized digital marketing and social media to expand its reach. To keep stakeholders abreast on relevant and timely information that affect the community during the pandemic, the SBMA created the SBMA official information page on top of the regular news and information releases through print, broadcast, and online media. The agency also facilitated the establishment of drive-through market to minimize health risks for Subic Freeport residents and other stakeholders. Meanwhile, Subic locators pitch in their own projects. Aside from innovations in safe dining and recreational bubbles, several accommodations in the Freeport served as quarantine hotels for the crew change programs, as well as visitors under staycation. We are happy to note that the Subic Bay Freeport stakeholders appreciates all our efforts to keep COVID-19 at bay and that feedback on SBMA initiatives have been positive.
During the pandemic, no, the SBMA did a very good job. I think they were able to manage yung COVID cases inside of river zone. There are some pocket outbreaks, but they really did a good job. For me, it's 10.
It's 10. I will give a highest score for SBMA, given the fact that they have provided the proper way of implementation for the health and safety protocols. They have also been supportive with the companies, giving us the chance to provide the skeletal workforce to allow us to continuously operate during those periods. Whenever we ask any help from the SBMA, they are willing to give hand to us also.
Actually, I will rate it as 9 because they really handled well, especially for the protocols during the ECQ. Walang masyadong nakakapasok coming from the other municipalities, no, nare-restrict talaga. At saka maganda doon, napaka-less compare sa other municipalities yung mga confirmed cases natin.
Honestly speaking, I would give SBMA an 8. 8 because SBMA did things very well relative to a lot of the other areas, neighboring areas. And if I would give SBMA a 10, well, nobody's perfect, but there's always room for improvement, and I think that's one of the things that not just me, but a lot of locators appreciate about the SBMA, it's that the SBMA makes the effort to adjust, to improve.
Being a resident and an employee inside the Subic Freeport Zone, we really feel safe, no, working here and residing here inside the Freeport Zone. So I think the management has done very well on the safety of the people residing the Freeport Zone.
Parang nandito po ako nung oras na yun, so parang marirate ko sa 8. Why? Kasi nung yung nagkaroon yung pumutok po agad yung pandemic, so automatic nagkaroon agad po ng protocols. Kaya sabi ko po 8 po. So far, so good po.
I would say 8. I would say so much better than other community because based on the record, we do not have that many cases in SBMA. And I think SBMA handled it well. It's not perfect. There are so many complaints from other sectors, but I think the result tells everything. Not having yung mga maraming cases, meaning SBMA successfully did yung dapat na gawin during pandemic.
SBMA administration has handled the COVID challenge very smartly. As SBMA knew, they were following the national government guidelines on the protection of its people and the business environment in SBMA. The ultimate goal of the administration really is to continue business in SBMA with less impact to the people and the environment. It has not been intimidated by anyone outside factors relating to people forcing their authorities over SBMA. SBMA has been confident that it has been following the guidelines and rules of the government, so it has stand its foot to implement what is necessary to protect everyone here. And my grade is 9.5.
And the rest, as you know, is history. Our anti-COVID-19 measures help keep the Subic Bay Freeport as one of the safest places in the country when others were weighed down by the sheer number of positive cases in their midst. And it was only on July 14, 2020, close to 6 months into the pandemic, that the Subic Bay Freeport recorded its first positive case, and that was when a visitor from Manila infected a resident. Still, at the end of the year, we had a relatively low number of confirmed cases, 46 among residents, of which only 7 were active, 29 among Freeport guests and transit workers, of which 2 were active, and 25 among SBMA employees with 0 active cases. But sadly, the economic toll of the COVID-19 pandemic did not spare the Subic Bay Freeport. The whole global economy sneezed, and Subic caught the colds. Surviving the Storm 2020 Accomplishments. The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, while hard it was for some, did not completely erode the solid business foundation we built over the years. Our sound policies gave us the toughness to weather the storm, while proactive measures to fight COVID-19 gave us the resilience to be able to bounce back after some beatings. In 2020, despite COVID-19, the SBMA recorded positive figures in its key measures. 3.2 billion pesos in operating revenue, 9.2 billion pesos in cash and investments, 6.2 billion pesos in other assets, 278 million pesos in remittances to local government units. Note that of the LGUs, Olongapo City gets the lion's share of the remittances from SBMA. $1.12 billion in imports and $1.03 billion in exports, 226,000 TEUs in containerized cargo volume, and 7.09 billion metric tons in non-containerized cargo, $1.2 billion in port revenue, 62.9 million in airport revenue, 5.19 million in visitor arrivals, and 0.29 million in tourist arrivals, and 8.48 million pesos in actual tourism revenues. And even as a lot of sectors were ravaged by the economic downturn, the Subic Bay Freeport welcomed a total of 69 new investment projects, mostly in the field of construction, health, wellness, logistics, information and communication technology. Said projects yielded total committed investments amounting to 1.2 billion pesos and generated a total of 682 new jobs. Even more heartening were the 11 expansion projects that were successfully implemented in construction, leisure, real estate, logistics, and petroleum trading. This generated a total of 163 million pesos in new investments, as well as 264 additional employment. The new projects and expansion resulted in record job generation, particularly in the manufacturing industry, which brought the number of Subic Bay Freeport workforce to a total of 138,966 workers. In terms of safety and security, we also logged fewer traffic violations, fewer complaints of the women's and children's desk, slightly higher in index crimes, unusual surge in non-index crimes, which are mostly violations of rules and regulations of the SBMA. Apparently, there emerged some winners in Subic even at the time of the COVID-19 pandemic, the ones who cleverly maneuvered themselves into opportunities brought about by the new normal. All along, the SBMA stayed its course amidst last year's challenges and continued to make headways under the 10-point development agenda. Part 4, Challenges Ahead. For 2021, as we resolutely move on and steer our ship, we can expect more challenges ahead. The COVID-19 pandemic will continue to result in a global economic slowdown. The Subic Bay Freeport and the stakeholders here will be increasingly called upon to help further avert economic deterioration in this part of the country. The SBMA's weakened financial position is also a big challenge, even as it provided relief measures to investor companies to help weather the COVID-19 storm. There should be a limit to dipping into its reserves to ensure its own survival. Another challenge is the CREATE Law, or the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentive for Enterprises Act, which seeks to rationalize fiscal incentives. This may have a huge impact on the operation of businesses in the Subic Bay Freeport. The proposed cancellation of the Visiting Forces Agreement, or the VFA, is also another concern that may impact on the revenue-generating capacity of the SBMA. Still, we can't change the direction of the wind, but we can always adjust our sails to favor the ship and continue with our journey. Chance always favors those who are prepared. With this in mind, the SBMA will maximize opportunities to be found in the new normal and continue supporting our ship to make it more stable despite the expected storms. Again, we will address these challenges and concerns by way of initiatives in our 10-point agenda. Policy reforms and good governance. The goal is to keep Subic safe. We will continue to update policies, guidelines, and best practices to solidify partnerships with relevant sectors in the fight against COVID-19, including leaving no stone unturned to secure access to COVID-19 vaccines for our communities. We will intensify campaigns against corruption, illegal drugs, smuggling, and illicit trade. We have seen a lot of these in the last couple of months, which showed our close working relationships with the PIDEA, NBI, PNP, even the Presidential Commission Against Graft and Corruption. In 2020, we also gave access to the public for all procurement processes of SBMA through Facebook Live. This will continue. We will also continue to lobby for amendments in the BCDA law that would provide the SBMA with broader revenue base from the 5% GIE collected from business locators. Sustainable development. We will pursue better environmental management systems, including those using green technology, and better health and safety standards to protect Subic and ensure sustainability. We will seek the development of alternate water resources and pursue the development of sewage and septic facilities. We will also identify and put into place new revenue-generating measures. Safety and security. We will continue to improve security systems to adequately cover land, sea, and forest areas in the Freeport with better monitoring and surveillance systems, upgraded perimeter security, and up-to-date hardware for law enforcement and fire protection. As mentioned earlier, we will develop and strengthen our partnerships with PNP, PIDEA, NBI, and other concerned government agencies to keep the Subic Bay Freeport safe. Of course, we will continue to intensify our campaign for a drug-free Subic. Community engagement. We will continue with our call for volunteerism, discipline, malasakit, kusang loob and kindness among stakeholders of the Subic Bay Freeport. Hindi po porke may social media, kailangan na natin magmura. Pwede naman po tayong mag-usap. And let's continue to reach out with each other and treat each other with kindness and humanity. We will strengthen our partnership with local government units and local groups in cooperation projects, including anti-COVID-19 programs. Nagpapasalamat po ako kay Mayor Len J. Paulino ng Olongapo City for agreeing to cover Subic Bay Freeport residents in his COVID-19 programs, especially for those in the top priority list. Muli, maraming salamat Mayor Len J. sa inyong malasakit para sa Subic. We will also initiate more community-oriented projects and continue town hall meetings and interactions with stakeholders in the Freeport and in the neighboring communities. Locator service excellence. We will continue improving programs and systems to cut red tape, streamline processes, and promote better access to Freeport investors and SBMA customers. I am happy to tell you that we are one with the Subic Bay Freeport Chamber of Commerce in making this happen. Marami pong salamat to SBFCC President Bubong Antonio for your leadership, open heart, and open mind. If you still do not have it yet, my mobile number is 0917-620-5056. I pride myself for being accessible to all of you. Using the same number, I am also on WhatsApp, Viber, Imo, WeChat, and Facebook Messenger. We will continue to support business locators with coping mechanisms to help ensure continuity of operations and economic survival. We will also enhance the attractiveness of Subic Bay Freeport to encourage more business opportunities even during the COVID-19 pandemic. Muli, uulitin ko, kasama po sa Locator Service Excellence ang pagiging accessible ko sa inyo. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have problems. Kung maari lang po, huwag niyo lang akong mumurahin and we will all be able to work together harmoniously. Subic Bay Freeport as gateway. We will intensify port marketing to increase container traffic and ship calls. We will reestablish the world-class stature of the Subic Bay International Airport through modernization and marketing programs. Malapit na po ito matapos and it's going to be exciting times for our Subic Bay International Airport. We will upgrade facilities for both air and seaports and support government initiatives in establishing new and better linkages with the nearby economic zones and market. FDI and MSMEs. We will continue developing new areas for industrial and commercial use, as well as encourage pioneering investments to open up as new industry sectors. We will encourage the shift to newer business models to make Subic enterprises more adaptive to change under the new normal, and of course, continue to work with the Department of Trade and Industry in giving access and opportunities to micro, small, and medium enterprises. Tourism Star. We will establish Subic as the must-go destination in the country for sports, pageants, conferences, and other events under the bubble concept. Kaya po tayo naghihigpit mabuti sa pag-implement ng IATF protocols ay dahil dito. Kailangan po makita ng mga turista na ang pagpunta po dito sa Subic ay magiging ligtas para sa kanila against COVID. Kaya po, patuloy po tayong nag-i-implement strictly para po patuloy silang pumunta dito sa atin sa Subic. We will continue to aggressively promote Subic as the Philippine capital for theme parks, triathlon, sailing, and the next cruise ship playground. We'll of course capitalize on domestic tourism to revive local businesses in the Freeport. Build, build, build. We will continue implementing infrastructure projects to replace decades-old roads, bridges, drainages, and other public facilities built during the U.S. Navy days. 2021, Subic as a safe haven. Our experience in the past month of the COVID-19 pandemic tells us that it really pays to keep safe. And there is a reason for following the rules. Not only for our personal physical health, not only for the protection of our loved ones and our community, but also for economic reasons. The Subic community took painstaking measures to keep safe, and now we are leveraging Subic's recognition as a safe haven for opportunities that will help us weather the COVID-19 storm. If we keep Subic this way, we can also take advantage of the expected economic rebound this 2021, not only in the Philippines but in the ASEAN. Right now, SBMA owns forecasts for 2021 are encouraging. 1.34 billion pesos and a 13% increase in seaport revenue, 96.7 million and a 55% increase in airport revenue. Still a significant increase in the number of investment projects that will be worth 4.38 billion pesos, and a substantial increase in employment brought by new projects. Despite the challenges still posed by the COVID-19 pandemic, we have clearly seen the direction we have to take and thus identified several opportunities and developments that will favor Subic. These are the bubble concept. We have been successful in leveraging the Subic Bay Freeport as a safe haven for business as well as for tourism. Thus, we have jump-started the revival of the local economy by establishing Subic as a global hub for crew change, as well as for corporate jet maintenance under a bubble concept. Now, we are successfully promoting Subic as a center for sports, pageants, conferences, and other events under a bubble. We started late last month with the beach volleyball tournament by the Philippine Superliga, followed up early this month with the championship games of the Maharlika Pilipinas Basketball League or the MPBL. Soon, we are excited to host the MPBL regular season and the Philippine National Volleyball Federation regular series. Likewise, negotiations are ongoing for the holding of various beauty pageants here in Subic under a similar bubble concept. Just imagine the economic boost these events will give our hotels as well as other related establishments in the Freeport. It also means that our strict implementation of rules attracts more events, more business, and more income for the Freeport. The Vessel Layup Program. Just last week, the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases has approved through a resolution to allow the SBMA to resume receiving all types of vessel for what is called a hot and warm layup in Subic. This is in addition to Subic's function as a crew change hub, which, as you know, only happened because stakeholders of Subic strictly followed health safety protocols laid down by the authorities. Again, this will be another shot in the arm to our local economy, and this puts us in the map of the global maritime industry as a safe and friendly haven. Just when Hong Kong and Singapore have closed their ports due to the COVID threat, Subic is showing the world that it can be done safely. The Hanjin White Night. Another exciting opportunity for Subic this 2021 is the impending closure of a business deal for the takeover of the Hanjin shipyard in Subic by a new investor. Concerned parties, including SBMA, are now moving towards the final stage of negotiations for the takeover. Inspection of facilities happened last month, and all I can say is that big-ticket items have been finalized and only some small details needed polishing. This deal would bring Subic right back into the thick of global shipbuilding. Vaccination program. Of course, an important item in this year's agenda would be the mass vaccination program to ensure the health and safety of stakeholders in the Subic community and thus guarantee the continued operation of Subic as a growth center. For this, we are leaving no stones unturned. We are now coordinating with various government agencies, private groups including the Subic Bay Freeport Chamber of Commerce for access to vaccines for Subic Freeport locators and residents. Right now, the most concrete plan for access to vaccines is SBMA's partnership with the Subic Bay Freeport Chamber of Commerce. The chamber will pool all orders for vaccines as Unilab only caters to the private sector. Please join the webinar tomorrow at 10:30 in the morning for answers to all your questions on prices, schedules, delivery, and the like. 2020 and beyond, recovery and repurpose. In the coming years, Subic will be in for more changes. Changes that will surely be accompanied by more challenges and opportunities too. For in the coming years, we can expect and we should expect readjustments as Subic moves on towards recovery and to repurpose itself for its economic role. Among the more immediate changes we can see are the following. The Subic-Clark Railway. This national government project is designed to further spur development in the Subic-Clark area and nearby provinces. It is actually just a small segment of the greater Luzon railway system which encompasses the length of Luzon from Sorsogon in the south to Cagayan in the north. It will improve connectivity and mobility through freight and passenger interoperability, spur economic activity in the regions, and decongest Manila. Subic Bay Redevelopment Plan. This is future-proofing Subic with a new development master plan. This study, which will be funded by the Japan International Cooperation Agency or JICA, seeks to further expand the use of existing port facilities and the new container terminal in the Subic Bay Freeport. Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. The Philippine economy is seen to benefit from the country's participation in the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership or RCEP, which is the latest and largest trading bloc to be formed in the world. RCEP is expected to complement the government's ongoing trade and investment reforms and initiatives. As a government investment promotion agency, the SBMA will be on the lookout for new growth opportunities under the bigger perspective of RCEP. As we navigate in the years ahead, in 2020 and beyond, let us bear in mind the life-changing experiences we have had in the year past. Without any playbook to tell us what to do, we managed the COVID-19 pandemic in the Subic Bay Freeport, I say quite well, and we are better prepared now because of these experiences. Of course, our response was not totally unassailable. For one, we admit deficiencies in the physical upkeep of the Freeport during the pandemic when we were all hunkered down. And this was because our sanitary workers, who are mostly in their senior years, cannot risk themselves going out and manage our surroundings. I, in fact, did not allow them to risk their safety. And then, there were the reactions, good and bad, about our anti-COVID measures. Along with the kind words we received for what we were doing, there was also a lot of viciousness that came out from some people. But I know that anger only results from not being in control, from not being able to understand how one stands in a particular situation. And so, we thank both the well-meaning and the uninformed for the feedback they gave us, for both kindness and meanness only made us better persons. As we move forward, let us take these lessons to heart. We can forget all about the things that hurt us, but let us not forget what they taught us. Amid all the beatings that we suffered, and before all the challenges that we face, there is now a resolute cadence in this voyage of ours. For it is only a stormy sea that could make for a better sailor, and not a calm one. I am glad that the stakeholders of the Subic Bay Freeport have all been supportive of SBMA. As we navigated the dangerous shoals and braved the winds and the rain in our journey. I am glad that amidst the storms of the past year, we have found our anchor in the common love for the Subic community, and in our malasakit for this place we call home. The storm may not have completely passed us yet, but we definitely see now a lot of sunshine that replaces the rain, and the dark clouds, as we have fervently prayed, are slowly dissipating. Let me assure everybody that the ship that is the SBMA will come out of the COVID-19 pandemic wizened and experienced and more capable in steering the Subic Bay Freeport into a better tomorrow. And that the storm that has disrupted our daily lives and heavily impacted our businesses can only make us stronger together.